G'day everyone, Graham Turner from the Quantum Management System. Sorry, we're just still getting people into it. Got a few come. Do apologise. Could I ask everyone other than the co-host just to keep their microphones closed? The way we're gonna run the meeting tonight, the first hour will probably be the most of the people involved with what we're doing. We're just going to have a brief chat for those who haven't heard about the QMS and are first timers on here. And then after that, we're going to open the second hour of the meeting to questions for everybody. So we ask you to hold your questions till the end. If you pop your hand up, we'll bring you into the meeting to ask the question directly. If you don't want to ask us directly, please contact Tim, Karen, or Michelle. Karen spelled C-A-R-O-N, and it's Michelle Boyle, Karen Yardley, or Tim Dwyer. They're helping me co-host the meeting at the moment, as is Graham and Jeff. So you in there, Graham? You should be able to unmute the microphone that I've made you a co-host as well. Is there somewhere? All right, so gradually getting everyone in. A little bit of housekeeping, so we'll just ask to keep the questions till the end. Now tonight, we're not a political party, and I'm going to say that right up front. So we aren't proposing or offering policy. What we're offering is a tool to build policy on, which I'll go into a little bit more and explain in a minute. I got to before I did. So we'll tell you a bit about the QMS. There's been a lot happening. We've got other groups coming and joining with us shortly. Our membership has hit 6,500. It's actually a little bit over that now. And we are growing in numbers. And yeah, so again, for the new ones coming in, just hold your questions till the end, please. We've got an hour section where we'll do a Q&A at the end of the meeting. We're just going to sort of get the hosts on, first of all, let them have a bit of a chat about what we're building and explain how they came to it, what it is, etc. And then we'll bring in a question period for the last hour of the meeting. So, all right, I'll start now. The QMS is the Quantum Management System. The Quantum Management System is a tool to vote on policy, not parties. So what it'll do is it's an option to the Westminster system. It means that we don't really govern by people anymore. We can now be governed by ourselves, but we'll have a tool to do it with. So it handles all parts of managing the policies for the country. We still have public service. So when a policy is determined by the will of the people, which is what our system will help the people do, the people can then put the policy in place. And once it is put in place, obviously it's got to be administered or put out to a public service. And the public service will obviously take care of whatever the change is at that stage. The idea behind it is that we want to give the voice back to all Australians. The QMS, if you haven't already read the proposal, it is on our website. It's www.theqms.org. We've got all the big guns working with us on this from legal perspective, all different perspectives actually. We've got amazing people working with us. And I think the first person I'm going to bring in tonight will be Graham Jeff, so that he can say hi and tell you a little bit about the QMS and how he came to it. Just bringing him in now, asking to unmute. Yeah, you there, Graham? Hello, Graham. He might have just dropped out, so he does have some bandwidth issues. Tim, would you like to give us 5 minutes and talk about how you came by it and what
sure.
You're at with
Yep.
it?
All right. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all on tonight. And thank you for giving up your Saturday nights enthralling television. My name's Tim Dwyer from South Australia, for those of you who don't know me, and there's quite a few.
Hello, Tim.
Hey, Wayne. How you doing?
I'm well.
Good, mate. Good. Well, look, I've been around the Constitution for many, many years, fighting all sorts of battles with all sorts of nefarious type people that hold office. I came across the QMS, I guess sheerly by accident, but by invitation. And what I've looked at is that, as those of you who know me, I'm a staunch constitutionalist. Anne-Marie,
Unmute the microphone.
Got that. I'm a staunch constitutionalist, and one of the things that I look at is that our constitution is an absolutely awesome document. It does have flaws, but it is still an awesome document. But when the people who purport to hold office totally ignore it, then it might as well not be in existence at all. We have to find a way whereby we bring those people who are going to be in office to be there lawfully. And what we find is that democracy is a wonderful, wonderful instrument, but the people in office have to hear the voice of the people. And at the moment, are there those out there who feel that their voice isn't being heard? Do you feel that your voice is being heard? Right? No, we don't. And just a quick question or two. How many people feel have written a letter or an email or something to some member of parliament, some politician somewhere, and never got a reply, never got a real reply? You might have got an automated reply. Of course you have. We've done it by the thousands. They're totally ignoring us. And this is why we need to have a direct democracy whereby you, the people, voice your opinion, and those in office have to respond to the democratic people.
Your camera's on.
Right?
I just want to listen.
We just put that on mute. So what I found with the QMS is that I think what we've got here is a brilliant tool that if we can get the numbers of people behind the concept, no longer will we elect people into a position, a highly paid position, just for them to ignore us and make rules and laws that are not the betterment of the Australian people. I mean, you've got to look back a long time. I think I'm one of the elder statesmen here, along with Wayne, and we look back, and I can't think of a time when, and Graham, of course, but when the government passed a law that enriched our lives for the betterment of everybody in the nation. And this is why we need to have a change, I believe, because clearly whatever it is that's out there today is not working for you and I, the people, and you and I, the people under our constitution. We are the sovereign, not the government. We are the sovereigns. And so therefore, I believe that if we can encourage people to come forward and give them a good reason why to come to the QMS system, yes, we will still have a constitution. It may be altered for what we have at the moment, but only to the betterment, to strengthen it so as that you, the people, have more authority, and those who are in office at our behest have less protection, and they will suffer a penalty for breaking the laws. At the moment, they get rewarded for breaking the laws. And so we do need to change the system. We're not trying to be radical out here. We're not trying to do any of this sort of stuff. We're not going to storm the barrages. But what we need is a consciousness of people who can see a brighter future, a better future. Yes, there'll be some pain to go through, I believe. However, just like birthing a new child, if you raise the child right, the reward is there. At the moment, the child is out of control, and we need to bring the child back under control. So that's my take on the QMS at this point in time. And, you know, we've had many discussions, and, you know, we're trying to find our way, I guess, just like you are. That's why you're here. You're trying to find a better way. And I encourage you to stay with this for now, so as that you wait and see what we bring up in the future. I think you'll be flat out excited. I really do. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. We're actually really love having Tim working with us, as obviously with Wayne Graham and everybody that's been. We've got amazing people working together, and some of the best brains in the country. So I genuinely mean that. We're very lucky to have these guys. Graham, are you?
I'm here, but I've got no video for some reason. Don't know why.
Okay, I thought. Would you like to take the floor next? And
Yeah. Look, I mean, most of the people know what I'm about. I've been trying to raise awareness of what's been going on in this country for many, many decades. In fact, since 1908. But what we need to do is focus on waking people up. I think most people would agree that the two-party preferred system just doesn't work for the people. Works okay for the politicians. It certainly doesn't work for the people, and we can't get even our questions raised in the parliament because the system prevents us from doing that unless we get the agreement of the people who work for us, and that seems to be, you know, the cart before the horse, so to speak. But I think what we have to really understand is that in this country we have we are one of the most resource-rich countries in the world. We have so much wealth in this country, common wealth, which belongs to the people, and yet the people don't get any benefit from it. You've got to start asking yourself, why don't we receive anything from you know, the sale, lease, rent of our common wealth, of our assets, of our resources? And why do we have homeless people? Why do we have veterans killing themselves because they can't get proper health care or they can't get housing? Why are our pensioners, our aged pensioners who worked and built this country, you know, some of them worked 40, 50 years, and that's not just people who were born here, that's immigrants as well that came from Europe, all over Europe and other countries, even, you know, people come from Asia and have helped build the infrastructure in this country, and yet we still have so much poverty. Our pensioners are living 20% below the poverty line, and the government's excuse for that is, oh, well, you know, I mean, we can't do it anymore. They should have had superannuation. So, look, there's a lot of things that we can talk about, and you know, I'm privileged to be working with some of the greatest Aussies I've ever met, even though we probably haven't physically met. In Wayne, Tim, Dick Yardley, Graham Turner, you know, the author of the QMS, has given us an opportunity to give the people an encrypted, a safe, anonymous voting system that can't be hacked, that can't be overtaken by unscrupulous people that, oh, sorry, I mean politicians, same thing. But, you know, the thing is that we need to do is to work together. And you know, I've just put a challenge out today that I would like to debate and discuss the QMS with all of our current so-called saviour politicians, and also those who want to be politicians and want to have their own parties. And that includes, and this is not derogatory on any of them, I just want to talk to them. I want them to convince me why we should support the two-party preferred system instead of the QMS. And that is Rod Culleton, Rick Bossy, Pauline Hanson, Malcolm Roberts, Craig Kelly, Clive Palmer, etc., etc., etc. All of those people are telling us that they want to pursue the two-party preferred system because they think that they're going to get in there and they're going to have enough power or enough votes to form a government. History shows that that's not going to be possible. And for those of you who don't know, every vote cast in this country is worth $2.20 out of the taxpayer's pocket. And that money goes somewhere. We don't know where it goes. Most of it goes to the two parties, which is why they call it two-party preferred. So let's make it a system that's people preferred. We the people. We are the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth of this country is ours. That's all we got to do. We just got to stand up and be counted. And that's enough from me. Thanks, Graham.
Cheers, mate. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And it is an absolute honour to work with Graham, Tim and Wayne, obviously, also, and with Karen, Michelle and the other people that we're working together with. Now, we do have apologies from Jackie and Pete, Jackie Dundee and Pete Little. They can't make it tonight, unfortunately. We were hoping to get them on too. I'll bring Wayne on in a second. I've actually, when I designed the QMS, I had no idea that it would fit within the Constitution. Speaking, when I spoke to Graham, and he told me that's what the system should have evolved in, you know, had they not stolen it away from us. And then to get Wayne to repeat the same thing to me with the technology that they have, it's a great honour having people like them on board. I mean, honestly, these men know more about our Constitution, more about our rights, and more about the law than I reckon any magistrate, judge, or any of those people as well. So even the lawyers that we would normally go to, these guys live this stuff. Even Tim, I mean, Tim, he's an absolute gentleman, and his knowledge just is amazing. Wayne, would you like to say a few words on the QMS, how you came across it and your involvement? You'll need to unmute, mate. Sorry, I'll bring you in. There you go.
I'll put myself in. Now I'm in. Yeah, look, I was introduced to QMS. I went and had a look. I was invited to stay, and I'm staying. I've looked at the system. A young lady put up a couple of questions in relation to being able to vote, and that'll all come back. The voting system in this country, the Electoral Act and the Immigration Act have to be thrown out and put back under the Constitution. I'm a strong advocate for the Constitution. I've studied it for 50 years. I spent 17 years in the Western Australian Police Force, some time in prosecuting. I've got a pretty good memory for an old bloke, but I use it against the system because the system's wrong. You can vote when you come here. You've got to be naturalised according to the Constitution, not come in as under the Citizenship Act. That's a load of nonsense. When you do that, if you come from a Commonwealth country, you come in here and you can start the vote straight away. You can actually sit in Parliament after 5 years because you're emigrating, you're not immigrating. The whole issue of, I was discussing it with someone else today, the issue of having to have passports if you come from anywhere in the British Empire is a nonsense. Brought on by the four political parties claiming to be two, as Graham says. They're nothing but crooks. We can overturn this system. I believe we've got the knowledge, the power amongst us all, and the ability and the willfulness to do it. And I believe we can do it. There is a couple issues that I'm looking at. I'm waiting for Carol to write the rest of how the system works. Then I'll align that with the Constitution and put it to everybody, because there is a way to bring this forward bit by bit. Since I spoke to you already, Graham, today, Turner, that is, not Graham, just. I've been turned it over in my mind, and I think there's a way we can bring it in slowly, systematically, with the will of the people and permission of the people. To start off with, we need to control the politicians. We can put that into legislation. That's quite into the Constitution. That's quite easy, because it's supposed to be abiding by us. There's a lot of things have taken place in the last few years. Well, the last 40 years, few years to me, which are criminal and they're wrong. And as Graham just said, we want our sovereignty back. We the people form the Commonwealth, not we the government. We the government don't exist. It's we the Parliament. The people are actually the government of this country. The sooner we can get that in place, get our will in place, and I see that in both Graham Turner and Graham Jeff's ideals and ideas, and I see it's workable, and I see we can work with it, and I hope we can all work together to make a better Australian for our kids, because we're not here much longer. And what about the kids? They're the ones that are going to have to pay for what we don't do or do. So we've got to do it correctly and make sure they don't pay for what we don't do. Thanks.
Absolutely, Wayne. Thank you. And again, appreciate it, mate. Love having you on board. So, look, we've, as I say, we really do have some great people putting this together. It's not just me.
Excuse me, Graham. We can't hear you very well at all. You're very muffled.
I'll bring my microphone a little closer. Is that any better?
Can I just say something for you, Graham?
Sure, mate.
Have you got a little bit of sponge rubber?
Somewhere around, yeah, I'm sure.
Grab it while someone else is talking and put it over your microphone. Just punch a hole in it, stick it over. That'll stop a lot of the echoing.
Okay, all right. Is it still echoing now?
Yeah.
Just a little, but the sponge rubber tends to stop it.
Okay.
It's not very loud still.
But I'll step out in a minute and do that. What I'll do now is I'll ask Karen. Are you in here, Karen? Somewhere? I hope so. You'll have to unmute.
A very bouncy room.
No?
Me?
Oh, yes, you.
It's Carol.
Did you, now, would you like to say a little bit about the QMS and how you came to it in your party as well, please?
Hello, everybody. I've come to the QMS a bit by accident, but probably by design. And
QMS.
I've been thrown into this, and I've just thrown myself into it while I've been thrown into it as well. So I'm doing a lot of work in the background. It never seems to end. There always seems to be something else to do. But I'll tell you something that I've started doing today. If you're part of the website and you've signed up and you're a member, I've added in the members forum another group called volunteers. So if you go and have a look, I've started that page tonight. I've got lots more to sort of work on it. But I've put up into the volunteers section all the types of volunteer work we're looking for at the moment. Now, obviously, that will expand as we go along and as different things are needed. But if you have a look, we're looking for volunteers that can be coordinators of small teams of people, finding those teams and coordinating them. We're also looking for people that are happy to manage a resource and help us to do that, and all sorts of volunteers to be members of those teams and to help out in various ways. And it's really important at the moment. We've had a lot of people coming forward and saying, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? And if you want to volunteer and you've got some time, some effort, some expertise, you're able to loan or give us equipment and resources so that we can facilitate certain things or fund certain things at your own discretion. We'd love that, because we really need all the help that we can get at the moment to start pulling all of this together. So have a little look, and we're going to be extending the list of groups to a few more groups. So there's not many groups in there now, but there will be very soon, and you'll be able to start to engage with all the different facets of the help that we need. What else can I say? There's so much that I'm doing behind the scenes. I can't begin to tell you, but if this is a great concept, and when you know the workings of it and how it works from the ground up all the way through the process and the system to the end point, you realize that it's a good system. And some people may have some confusion. And at the moment, I'm also working on a diagram because, people learn differently and people process information differently. All our brains work differently. So some people might understand things by words, by hearing the oral, and other people might understand by seeing a visual. So we're also working on creating a flow diagram that explains more clearly how the process actually works and where the security and anti-corruption measures are put in. And that might help people understand a little bit more. But of course, these things take time. They're not things that you can sort of run up in 2 seconds. And so we're doing lots and lots of different things. I can assure you that there's lots of different meetings going on, lots of discussions about different things. Really exciting, really exciting times, and lots of stuff going on. I've had a lot of. Would you mute your microphone, please? Whoever's just come in, thank you. I've had a lot of personal phone calls this week. I've had people ringing me from WA, from Canberra, from New South Wales, from all over Australia, and they're ringing up and they're really frustrated about what's happening, and they're alerting me to, us, the QMS, the team, to the different things going on, and we're all aware of what's going on. We're all aware of these different things. And the only thing I can say to people to sort of help them just calm down a little bit from all of this is to assure them that ever since last year, when this pandemic started to get going, and those of us that were awake to it realised it wasn't really one, there have been court cases that were started last year in every single state, more than one. There are class action lawsuits all over Australia. So every single state is working on something and doing their best. All of the lawyers and barristers are really working hard to do things. So it may not get in the news. It may not get on social media because it gets taken down, but there's a lot of good work going on. There's lots and lots of things going on. Different groups. There's not just us that's out here doing stuff, but there's loads and loads of other people. And I've got 2 other bits of work. I'm also working with a team to talk about migration matters. and also a team to talk about the tribal nations. So that's what I'm doing, and I'll hand back over to Graham now.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for that. Karen's doing a lot of work, and we are very lucky to have her. Very few people know, but a lot of, look, there's a lot of writing has to go in the background. We have a lot of meetings, we have a lot of discussions. There's a lot of work, obviously, that I do on the website, and then getting back to people and networking. It's a huge job. I mean, I put 10 to 14 hours a day, and I know Karen does at least the same. Sometimes it goes up to 16. We all, most of the people involved in this obviously have lives as well. I'm self-employed, and so, yeah, I'm sort of, it's a struggle at times, and there's a lot to be done. But if we want to change this world, if we want to change our country and bring back the law, bring back the right to live properly and be free and make our own choices and have control over the system that, I mean, that system's not there to control us. It's meant to be under our control, and it's meant to give us what we need as far as safety, security, an education system, a healthcare system, all that's there for us. And it's manipulated and it's controlled. And I lost faith in it before I even went into it. I've never been in it. I mean, seriously, it's a corrupt political system. It's, you know what they are. I don't need to tell anybody on here. I'm sure you're all aware. If you trusted them, you wouldn't be here. And that's the big thing. They've burnt their trust. So what we're trying to do is build a system with full integrity. What I've designed, I believe, has protections built into it. The actual software itself, the blockchain that we're going to be releasing, that is top quality software. This is higher security level than your banks have, right? So, and think about this. You've never had a vote. You've never had a say in policy before, because these guys at the top are controlling it. You've never had the chance to go. How many, we saw before, everyone put their hand up who had sent a letter to an MP. They ignored it. What happened to it? You never had your voice heard. Never went into Parliament. It was never discussed. So we sit here while these guys make all those rules around us and then expect us to live. We've got, Jackie Dundee said there's 9 million pieces of policy there. Legislation, I should say. 9 million. What do we need all that for? That's crazy. The taxes we have, how high are they and how ridiculous and how many of them? And yet not one of us can do a thing to change them because we're just one person on our own. And even if we go there with 10,000 people saying we want to do this, they're not going to listen to us. They do what they want. They always did and they always will. They've changed our constitution. They've changed our law. They've taken everything away from the people so that they can maintain the power and keep the people powerless. This system gives us back our power. We only need public services and heads of public services. We need foreign diplomats. We need army, we need police, we need ambulances and hospitals and education systems. We need social security. None of that goes. It just gets changed to the will of the people with the quantum management system. We can use it to affect policy at all levels. It works from a council level to a state level to a federal level. And later on, if we adopt this here, you might see part of the rest of the world start to adopt it. We've already got extreme interest happening in New Zealand. I was in discussions this week with them and we're releasing a site for them shortly. The UK has shown interest as well. We're working on that too. There's a lot happening. And look, if New Zealand runs with it and gets there first, that's actually a good thing because it'll get it out to the masses here and we'll get it up quicker here than you know, we might be able to at the moment. That would be the best market ever. Much smaller demographic. They could have it going very, very quickly. We need to get to about 8 million people at this stage who are all of voting age. And that's a fairly big task, obviously. But we're doing our best and we are developing new ways of getting there and working on new processes of marketing the concept and what we're doing. The blockchain software is under development. We've got several people that we're in negotiation with around it and we're discussing with it. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail other than to say what we're building will be the most safest and secure system in the world. And when we settle on a few things and we get things completely organised, we'll release details of all of that. And this system, if we can get it working here, we'll give it to the rest of the world. And any other country that wants to take it up and run with it and build it into their structure can do so. And what you get is a people-led country. The people create the policy, They put the policy in, they change it if it doesn't work. If we build a policy and then a couple of weeks later we're kicking ourselves saying, why do we put that in place? We've got a tool that can change it. It's not like we've got politicians putting things that we cannot change in place anymore. Nobody's ever had a voice at a government level, not one of us, right? Unless we are a politician. And once you've sworn that oath, you're a traitor to the country. So, I mean, honestly, it's you can a company, but you're a traitor to our country. So, oh, sorry, I thought Michelle was going to say something. And Michelle helps us co-host and does a lot of admin work in the background as well. I'll bring her in a moment too if she'd like to say something.
Graham, you're still very, very hard to hear.
I'll take the sponge that Wayne recommended out of the microphone, see if that works any better. Is that better?
Can you bring it closer?
Fine. How's that? How's that? Better? I saw a nod from Tim. I'll take that as good. So look, we've never had the voice before. This system gives us the voice. So it is, look, like everything, it'll develop in time too. It'll develop with the will of the people. Nothing in our system can be enacted without the will of the people. And that's why we're not sitting here proposing policy to you. We're not telling you this is the way the world is going to be, or this is the way our country is going to be run, right? What we're saying is we have an option, we have an alternative that we can use so that you all can be part of creating the country in the way that it should be. And when I say you all, I mean every part of Australia. This system really is the only way we get hurt. Our membership grows daily. I mentioned before, we're over 6,500 now. Last week we were at 1,100. So we're getting the numbers in pretty quick at the moment. We are asking people to go out and invite 5 of their friends to join and then asking them to bring more in. We've got groups aligning with us. We're actually talking to the Australia Project people this week. We've had, and they are now going to be coming in with us. What we've got to discuss is what that looks like as they do, and that'll happen this week. And you can see, got a lot of support. I'll bring in a sec, Graham, if that's all right, mate. We've got support everywhere. So anyway, yeah, Graham wants to say something else, so I'll let him take the floor for a minute. Graham?
Can you hear me? I can't use the video and the voice. Look, I'm just having a bit of a chat with someone in the chat room, and I want everyone to understand that the QMS is not a prospectus; it's a proposal. And there are not very many of us working on this, so a lot of things that people say, we want this change, we want this change, doesn't happen overnight. So for those people who are still thinking that the immigration, asylum and refugee status has been decided, it hasn't. We're still working on it. And we know that a lot of people didn't understand why we talked about sovereign Australians having the vote to get the QMS up and running. And that was because of the invasion immigration programs of the corporate governments and the UN. So we're working on that now. Karen's got a panel together. If anyone is interested in contributing to that panel on who gets the vote, in terms of the different sorts of people that have come to Australia that weren't born here, please get in touch with Karen and she will give you a brief on what the panel is currently doing. There's no point getting angry about it. We know that there's things in there that people may not agree with. That's why it's a proposal, not a prospectus, and it's certainly not a done deal. So if everyone can just calm down, we're here of the people, for the people, by the people. We don't want anyone to getting angry or upset because we're listening to everyone. And I hope that will be echoed around through, the different groups, because we're not here to exclude people. We're here to include people, as many as we can, but we have to be sure who we're bringing in. And a comment was made before about Freemasons, be careful who you align with. Well, it's the same thing with who we let into the QMS. We have to be sure that the people who come into the QMS, who may be living here under the corporate government's type of citizenship, we have to make sure that they're here for the right reason. That's it, mate. That's all I got.
That's right.
Thank you.
No worries, mate. Thank you. And look, there is an issue around having a system like this with communist countries and that sort of thing existing, because they can direct their people to vote certain ways and things like that. So that was the reason I wrote it in the first place. But as I said, it never sat well, and it's not about being racist or disclusive. We've actually, do you know what? Every one of us gets a voice. We get to propose policy. Anyone can do that. Anyone can add weight to a policy, and anyone can be on the expert boards that we're proposing in there. If you get a chance to read the prospectus, you'll see there's a process that everything must go through before, sorry, not prospectus, Graham proposal, I beg your pardon. I originally called it a prospectus when I read it, but again, I'm learning about the language and the changes that I need to make with language, i.e. you don't say legal anymore, you say lawful. So for instance, there's many different words there that have been bastardized by the corporation. And if we want to get out from under this corporation, and we still want to have something that's not communist and not controlled by any New World Order type thing or global governments or other countries coming in and taking us over, we want to remain sovereign, we want to remain Australian, and we want to remain free. And that's what this does, is it gives us back that ability to do it. The main problem that I've seen, and the guys who are with me have seen with politics, is people, money and power. Right? You mix those three together, perception of power, people and money, all of a sudden you end up with corruption every single time. So if you want to take corruption out of the governance of your country, you have to take the politicians out. A couple of people have got their hands up, and we'll get to you guys a little bit later on and bring you in. We're just going through with all of the people working on the system at the moment. So we'll leave questions till the second hour and bring you guys in, and everyone will get a say. But
Graham, can I just add one thing to both what you and Graham said, is that I've started a discussion on the forum for that subject.
Fantastic.
The migration subject. So if people want to join that discussion, they can go on the forum and become a member of that discussion. And if they want to take it further and be part of a team, then they can do so that as well. That's it.
Thank you. And keep in mind, we're not a political party. We're not selling a new policy. A politician is a creator and seller of policy. That's what the word politician means. Create and sell, beautician, create and sell beauty. That's what they do, right? They do it. If you really think they're doing it for our best interests, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be here. So they're not. They've stolen it. They've taken the power. They've corrupted everything, and they've changed the way, the language, the use of the language, and the way things are getting out. We actually know of a guy who was arrested the other day under the CHO orders for going to see his local MP. I mean, if you can be arrested for that, you can't even, how do you raise an issue in governance? That's the way constitutionally you're meant to approach the government. You take it to an MP, they raise it in Parliament. You can't even get to them. You get arrested if you go see them. And this guy, the conversation was quite fine. There was no nasty, in fact, the politician he was talking to apparently agreed with what they were discussing and wanted more information. 4 hours later, he finds himself picked up, arrested, and yeah, the rest is history. So we do believe we've got a good system. There are a lot of good people working on it. It will become more powerful with the people joining and with the people adding content to it and information. As we say, this is a work in progress. I originally started with a bare bones system, and now I've got the guys putting the muscle in, the circular system, and the rest of everything else that goes into it. We want to bring this to life. We really want to make it real, and we can do it really quick too. We just need the will of the people. So,
Right. Can I jump in for a second, please?
Tim, mate, go for it.
I think there's a lot of people that may not understand the concept of a direct democracy, like a referendum by the people to create policy. Now, Graham, that concept that it's just as an example that we were talking about today with the 4 different choices. Is it all right if I just use that as an example of what a direct democracy might look like?
Yeah, sure, mate, go for it.
What I've put up is this, that when the governments at the moment make policy, they don't ask you. You get no say. But as an example, and that's all this is, it's an example, it's not a policy, but this is an example of how you could have a change in any aspect of law, in fact. So let's imagine that the QMS is up and running, and a question might be put forward, a policy might be put forward on taxation. You could leave the taxation system just the way it is, or choice two, get rid of all personal income tax, or choice three, get rid of all tax except a 2% input. So when you get paid, you pay 2% tax. And when you take your money out of the bank, you pay a 3% output. So you've got a total of 5%. So all company tax, GST, petrol tax, sales tax, all those taxes are gone. But if we had the 5% tax flat rate all the way through, every corporation, everybody else, the government would actually have more money than what it actually has today. So you would get to choose whether you want to leave it as it is, get rid of just personal income tax, or wipe out all the taxes, have a 5% flat tax, and the country have an enormous amount more money. The people would get to vote on the blockchain once they've thought about it, worked it out, seen it all. Then they could go, I choose 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3 or 0.4. That's how you directly affect the way your country would function. And we can do that with every law. We can do that with every bit of legislation that's out there. That's how a direct democracy can work. Now, please don't run off and start saying that the QMS is going to get rid of all the tax. That's not the point. The point of that conversation was just to give you the example of what you can do as a people that have available to you a system that puts the authority and the power back in the hands of the people where it belonged, where it was initially put into the Constitution. And I just want to say this, that in our Constitution, it says that the Constitution is a statement of trust. It's a trust document between the people and the Parliament. And when you breach a trust document, you're in all sorts of doodads. I tell you what, you're in trouble. And I want you to sit there and think, when was the last time that you saw a politician not breach your trust? Every politician in this country for the last 50 years has breached our trust. So we need to look long and hard at how we go about doing this, because we're going to get one shot. We're going to get one crack at this, and we need good people. We need you. Everyone sitting here tonight looking at the various people on here. Each one of you is just as important, if not more important, than Graham and myself and Wayne and Karen. Look, you are the country. You are the country, not us. You. This is yours. It's been given to us. Right? It said in the Constitution that all the states, we come together humbly relying on the blessings of Almighty God. I tell you what, I think Almighty God's turned his back on us as we've turned our back on him. But without getting too religious on a Saturday night, guys, if we, the people, don't do something extraordinary for a country that is extraordinary, but being raped and pillaged by lowlife, it's time that we brought our friends in. It's time we spoke to our families. It's time, do what you can do, let a box drop, do whatever, but we'll talk about that later. But I just wanted to give that example of what a direct democracy can do and how it might work.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. And look, the other thing is a direct democracy like what we're proposing here actually opens the floor up, so better ideas may come in too. You might have 10 options with the tax system by the time other ideas are presented. We don't know. So if you've got a small group of people making all the policy decisions for you and determining how the country is going to run, what they're doing is cutting out 27 million population with where potentially good ideas may come from. So I mean, look, what the QMS does, and a little bit more on how it operates, to get any policy up into its news feed, there's got to be 1,000 people want it. That's pretty easy to lobby for. To get it tested and measured, it's got to have 10,000 people that want to support it. And we do that with the thumbs up button. I know you see that thumbs up button and a thumbs down button, right? So if it hits 10,000, there's more people that want it than do not want it at that stage. There's got to be 10,000 that want it. It will go, and a board of experts would be called in for that particular policy. Now, they're going to be volunteer experts. They're not going to be aligned with Big Pharma or any banks or any of that sort of rubbish. These are going to be people that are patriotic to their country, have put their hand up and said, I have a specific set of skills, and that will be part of the membership when we get the full system running. At the moment, the website's just to collect members, to build a demographic, to explain the concept, and to start getting things out there. And look, there are things in the website. You've got a lawful assistance page where you can go and get documents that Jackie Dundee, Graham Jeffson, Tim and other people have provided. Wayne's, I think, got some to come as well. We're not everything to everyone. We're building a tool, right? So the tool is there so that you guys can change the country into what it needs to be. I've never voted. I've had no interest in politics, and I don't like it. You know, at the end of the day, I'd rather just, you know, we see the politicians come on the TV. I'd rather change the channel. I know they're just going to talk rubbish, and I'm not interested in hearing that. They come out and they give you a bunch of policies. You all go, oh, look, okay, I'll go with this one because I like 3 out of their 10 policies. The other 7 are probably taking stuff off me. But at least they're not taking 10 off me like the other lot are doing. And then so you vote that way, and then they come in and just do what the other lot were doing that you didn't want done anyway, or they just do something totally off the cuff, and all of a sudden it costs us. We don't want that anymore. We've got a system that can change that, and that's what we're promoting tonight. That's what we're showing you guys, and what we're asking you to bring your friends to and show them. Because the more people that go out there, with 6,500 members, as Tim said earlier in our meeting, it only takes 2 days of every one of those members going out and talking to 5 people and getting those 5 people to go and talk to another 5, and we've got the numbers. That's all we'd have to do in order to bring this system into existence and into life and make it the will of the people. And I mean, honestly, everything works on the will of the people. Now, the way I envisage it is that when the QMS is working, you're going to need people running departments and things like that, but not like the government. You don't have leaders anymore. You've got a restructure of everything. And I mean, we're talking about running the services that we have at the moment, you know, hospitals and ambulances, things like that, police, blah, blah, blah. You've got to have people running the show, the army, etc. We need security in our country. We need to know that we're safe. So we can't just throw those things away. Later on, we might be able to, if the world were to adopt it, because I can tell you now, governments cause wars, not people. It's not races, it's not people. People live together side by side without a problem of all nationalities. It's only when governments start creating problems with other governments that they force their people to go to war, and that's where all the hatred and stupidity and division comes into things. We don't want this country divided anymore. We don't want anyone in boxes. We don't want classifications. We want everybody to be equal and everybody to have a voice and a say in the governments and running of the country. Why should they decide everything for us and tell us how it's got to be? So we do believe we're doing the right thing. We do know it is lawful. I've mentioned in several meetings before that this was given to me. It's not something that I've created. It came through what I would call the universe. It's come in downloads. Its sections have come to me over 30 years. And last year I was both broken but mature and wise enough to get to the point in my life where I could actually sit down, take the time and turn this into what it's become. And then with the alignment of people that have come on board, we've been able to get it really rolling and get it out. And I mean, nobody's working for money here. We're not asking for money. We don't want your money, right? Mind you, some of us are going broke in the background and could do with it, but we still won't ask. We're way too proud. We'll run our own businesses. We'll find our own ways, okay? This is about building what we can for our people, for our country, because we are genuine, I believe, and I know I am, but I believe these guys are the best patriots this country's ever seen, the most amazing people that you've ever seen. All of them have got the guts to stand up and say what they're doing and get involved in this stuff. And finally, we've all come together and we've found a way to unify and actually work together to actually build something that we really genuinely believe that will change things. We wouldn't be here promoting it if we didn't. So we work on policy, not politics. We work on the will of the people, and nothing, not a thing can happen without that. Now, I saw Matt Wilson come into the meeting earlier on. Are you there, Matt? Because I'd like to ask you if you wouldn't mind to say a few words. You'll need to unmute, Matt, if you're there.
Yeah, I'm here, Graham. Just give me 5 minutes. I'm just going to give a shout out on Instagram really quickly.
Cheers, brother. Thank you. We'll get you in a minute. So, yeah, so Graham, did you want to speak to that, any of what Tim and I have just said there as well?
Well, I think we just, you know, we're all saying the same thing, and that we need to unify. We need to get the people together to make things happen, because when the framers of our constitution put the constitution together, they couldn't possibly envisage for 1 second that in 8 years of the constitution enacted, that the politicians create a two-party preferred system so they can guarantee that one either left or right wing would win forever. I don't think anyone in the constitutional conventions back in the late 1800s even had a vague thought that this could happen. They did give us one thing, and they gave the Constitution to the people in an indissoluble document, which means it cannot be dissolved unless it's dissolved by the people. The problem is that they gave the ability to ask for referendums to the Parliament or to the politicians, to our elected representatives. But we now know that we are many, many, many more than they are. And all we need to do is to stand up and exercise our will, because that's how we're supposed to be governed, at our will. And Wayne will tell you, and Tim will tell you, and Dick and all the other constitutional scholars in this country will tell you the same thing. It's always been about the numbers. We have to get the people up and awake. We don't need them in the street necessarily. We don't need them to to do anything or lay out any money or anything. All they need to do is to join together as a collective mind, if you like, and start thinking the same way and start asking themselves, why are we letting this happen? Because we are letting it happen, because we go back to every single election and we do it again. And, and as I said before, that costs us a shitload of money, pardon the French, because every time we go to an election, we know the result is going to be left or right, but we still go and vote for independence, thinking that we will get a different result. That's insanity. So what we now need to do is remove ourselves from underneath the corporation that calls itself our government, and remove ourselves into the QMS, where we know when we vote through the QMS encrypted system, it will count, it will be counted, and it can't be corrupted, and it will go exactly where you want it to go, which is first horse past the post. So whoever gets the most votes wins. That's the idea behind democracy. None of this preferential voting and preferred parties and all this sort of stuff. And then they took the preamble off our constitution in 1986, which took the people out of the constitution, because the preamble is where the people are mentioned in an indissoluble federation, Commonwealth of Australia. It sounds like it's a huge task to get people to understand what the Constitution says and what their inherent rights are, and what rule of law is. Rule of law comes from your maker. There's the only space between you, rule of law, which is you are, as Leith often says, and Leith's in too. You might want to get her to ever say. Crown sovereign is you are an image of your creator on earth. So there is no law between you and the creator. The only laws that you have to abide by are the ones that you give consent for. In other words, if you give no consent, there is no law. And that's what the framers of the Constitution wanted for us. They want us to choose what was right through representatives and representing us in the Parliament. That doesn't happen anymore. So time for a change. And the QMS, I believe, is the platform that we need to build the best governance, not government, governance, economic and societal systems on, which will be of the people, for the people, by the people. That's in essence what we are doing, and that's in essence what we believe everybody wants. They just have to start to want it more than what the government wants us to do, which is capitulate and just lay down and do as we're told.
Absolutely. And Graham said earlier about waking people up. He's more talking about waking people up about our lawful situation and the government. He's not talking about trying to wake them up over COVID. You're going to fall on deaf ears there. If you want to change that, get them into the system or change it when they're there, because we can test and measure things in the system properly. And people will start waking up when they see experts volunteering their time that aren't from Big Pharma yet have the same qualifications and skills going in there, because they're patriotic Australians and they want to do a job for Australia to get the best policy and the best systems going. I mean, like, if you want to stop things like that, and look, we wouldn't necessarily stop it. Even the people pro-vax would probably propose that they want it mandatory, and would, as soon as the experts get in there, the truth's going to come out about what's in there, what it does, all it's going to be tested, it's going to be shown. And I mean, who would vote for it if that's the case? And unless it really actually is what they say, which I very much doubt. So look, and as I said before, any policy that goes through, if you wanted to change it, if it actually got up and worked and you wanted to change it, it's a very quick process with this system. We're not waiting for red tape and politicians and all that rubbish and money, etc., because there's none of that in there. We're not about that. This is a system that you can use. You pop your details in, they're kept in a blockchain, so nobody else has access to them. Your vote's also stored in the blockchain as well. So, I mean, we know obviously the system will have different options where it actually checks things and has cross-reference points and things like that. It checks everything, first of all, to make sure it's constitutional. That's one of the main things, is to make sure it aligns with the constitution that it's set up in. It's there. We can do this. We've got the tech, we've got the people, we've got the brains, we've got the information, and then afterwards, we've got all of the evidence too. So, I mean, we've got quite a lot ready to go. All we need is the people and the will of the people. And you people here, because obviously you want to change, you want to get something better than what you've got. We all want that. So we need to go out there. And if you talk to people out there and say, do you trust the government? I will guarantee you 99.95% of them will say no, because, well, that's our experience anyway. You might find the occasional person that thinks they're fine, but honestly, the system's broken, it's failing, it's collapsing, it doesn't work, and it's been stolen away from us. We've had great men exposing it for a long time, and honestly, where can you change it? If you can't fix a corrupt system within a corrupt system, you cannot use a corrupt court system to get, you can't change it at all, because that's just corrupt. You can't change the politicians through voting, because the whole thing's already swayed against you. There's no way. So, Matt, did you make it back in there, mate, or are you still out and out, or? If you're there, unmute, Matt. Hello? All right, so look, you guys get the gist. The system, we believe it's going to be 100% secure. We believe we've got the way to do it. We're working on, I think Matt's coming back in. We're working on various aspects, improving aspects of it. We want everything to work right. We want it to be fully inclusive. We want it to be of the people, for the people, and by the people. And as I said, it needs to be 100% secure, because you need to have integrity in your system of governance and in your voting system. Did you just make it back in, Matt? Matt Wilson, you there?
Hey, Graham, how's it going?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. So, first, thanks everyone for coming along and having a look at this. I think the first step with anything is to have a listen and have a look and see what kind of changes can be made. And I think that, with change, it's always the first step that's the hardest. And I think there's a lot of people that are adverse to change, and a lot of people get stuck, whether it's in a system or in a lifestyle choice or whatever it is, and they realize that they're they're in something that's not working, but they won't step out of it because it becomes comfortable, even if it is a slave system or whatever else. And I feel like within our governmental system right now, we are being run by a government that doesn't have our best interests at heart. And that's what sort of brought me along to have a look at QMS and to see what it was all about. And I think, you know, I was saying to Graham, and I've said this in other meetings before, I like to simplify things. I like to talk about things as if I was talking to a 10-year-old child, because I feel like that's how you get the most people on board and you get people thinking the same kind of way. And I feel like with QMS, we're looking at a system that's about giving the power back to the people. And I always start off my conversations, because this is now about multiplying and getting the information out to as many people as possible. So I always start my conversations by saying, do you currently trust your government? Do you trust your government right now? And 99% of people now, I reckon it was about 60, 70% said no. Now with all these lockdowns going on and with governments, our federal government making mistakes and this whole rollout debacle of what's going on, it's 90% plus people that don't believe in their government and don't trust them now. And I feel like, you know, once you ask that question of people, and then you can say to them, would you be interested in looking at a new system? And then I try and dumb down or make it as easy as possible to understand QMS. And I say to them, you know, right now you're voting in ministers in your electorate, and you're voting in those ministers to make decisions for you and to help you. But the problem is, once that minister's in place, they can be kicked out, they can change their mind, they can drop into being an independent, they can do whatever they want. And you no longer have that choice. And a true democracy would mean that you're continually being heard. And in this democracy we're in now, you can call these politicians, you can email them, you can go into their office and you get no answers and your voice isn't heard anymore. So with a QMS system, rather than having a minister sitting there in his fat office collecting paychecks, remembering that when these guys retire, they get paid for the rest of their life as well out of our hard-earned taxpayer money. With the QMS system, instead of that, the power goes back to the people. And so as both Grahams mentioned earlier and other people have mentioned within this Zoom, once we have the power back with the people, if say it's your health area or it's your education area, you put together terms of reference by the people. So we initially have a very skeleton sort of set out for everyone. And then once people start voting on what they want changes in and put it out there, if enough people get behind it through this blockchain system, it then goes out to the people for a vote. And nothing could be fairer than that. The power is back with the people. So whether it's, and I always put the example of, we don't want dogs on St Kilda Beach anymore. If you get enough people putting that forwards as a term of reference, it then goes out to the people of Australia. I know it sounds very simplified. It goes out to the people of Australia. If they vote no dogs on St Kilda Beach, or they vote yes, let's put the dogs on St Kilda Beach, the vote is final. It goes ahead. You might find after another 6 months that vote comes back across the table because the dogs are crapping everywhere. Like, you come together with whatever these decisions are. I know that's very simple, but you come together with these decisions, it goes out to a referendum, and from there, the people have the power. So what we really want to say is the people have always had the power, and Graham Jeffs and these guys will testify to that through the Constitution. The people have always had the power, but they've been taught to believe they don't. And, you know, you just got to look in the schooling system where the Constitution stopped being taught in the 70s. Myself, when I was born in 78, I never knew we had a constitution until I found these remarkable people like Graham Jeffs and Wayne Galoo and these warriors that have been continually saying, guys, you've always had the power, you just forgot. So let's start thinking in the most simplified way that this is a system for the people. The people will have the power. Any changes you want or any terms of reference you want put in place, go out to a vote by the people. And then if the people vote, over 50% of the people say, yes, we want this in place, it gets put in place. That's the simplest way to look at it. And I think we need something that's different to the system we're in now, because currently you've got two-party preferred, but there's no opposition. Both parties are putting through all the same things. If you look on the weekends, they go and play golf together and they, in the background, shake hands and make all these deals in the background. And we don't get a say in it anymore. So let's get the say back to the people. That's what I want to see. And I think, you know, this system really has legs, and it can make a huge difference. So jump onto the website that the guys are putting up, theqms.org, and you'll learn a lot. And from there, make a decision for yourself and start having conversations with your friends and family. Do you think the system we're currently in works? Do you trust our government? If you don't, come and have a look at this, because it's a really great option.
Cheers, Matt. I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you. Great work as always. And yeah, as Matt said, he's been out talking to a lot of people, obviously promoting us, but he's also out there asking the right questions. And that's what this is about. If you're going to ask questions, they're always, you try to ask the right ones where you can. Anyway, we'll move on to the Q&A at this stage. So if you guys have questions, now would be the time to bring them in, and one of us organisers will answer your question. We've got Chris Mayers waiting to come in. Chris, would you like to unmute your microphone, mate?
Yep. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for giving me a sec, Graham. I've been making, I think I've made about 6 pages of notes so far, just on key things. And if I can just touch on those briefly. I think Graham Turner made a really good point. Everyone can come onto the QMS and contribute. So if it's someone who's been here for a year, they can still go on and say, hey, I think we should do this around St Kilda Beach, or I think, you know, why aren't you doing this as a nation? They can still put forward the ideas and discuss them. But then from a protection of all of us, we only want to have the good guys voting. So that's why there's that piece about eligible voters. We want to be inclusive. We want to include everyone. But we just, we need to have a sensible approach about what we do. Otherwise, we're going to have, and that's the situation we're in now. So I know I saw a few people comment, and I know it's something that's been on the calls the last two weeks, is, but hang on, I've been living here for 20 years. Why don't I get to vote? Well, the intent is we want you to vote. We want you to have that power, but we just need to know that there's a sensible way about who we let in to actually be able to vote and tick stuff off. The second point is we see the QMS, and this is from being in a number of the different groups on the forum.
I think, Chris, you dropped.
Sorry, I'm on the mobile phone. That's all I've got to play with. Okay, I'll put them on. I'll put them on the forum. So I'll put a section.
Cheers, mate. Because we've got Andy's got his hand up as well. I'd like to bring Andy in next and get his question. But yeah, we were having a lot of trouble hearing you in the end. It sounded like you were really fading out. But what Chris said is right. We want people to be involved. There was never any intent of not allowing the vote to people. The idea is, at the moment, we need a stopgap. And I think letting the Australian-born public was the reason I wrote that in, was so that we had that stopgap, so that we could stop things like some countries trying to influence our system and our policies here. And it's not about racism, it's not about hatred, it's not about division. That's why the floor's open to everybody to come in, propose and add weight to, and be part of the expert teams. And if you think about it, none of us ever had a say before anyway. So it's sort of, to me, it made sense when I wrote the document that we essentially handle it that way. But it has caused some people to get rather upset, and it is something that Karen Yardley is working very, very closely on with a great team. And I mean, I'll let you know now, 80% of the people have been working together with us on the QMS. Sure, Graham, Wayne, myself, and Tim might be Australian born, but we've got 80% of them have not been. They've been people from other countries that can see the value in what we're doing and see the value of the system. And they trust the Australian people enough to make that decision-making process for them. But at the same time, yeah, there's ways we can bring people in, and that's all being developed, but nothing at all can happen without the will of the people. And I always come back to that. It comes down to the will of the people. Sorry, Andy, if you'd like to unmute, mate, and ask a question or say, please come in.
Hi there all. My name's Andy. I live in country Victoria. I run a business, came to Australia about 16 years ago.
Nice plug.
And been involved with the QMS team since it practically started. I think, well, Graham was obviously the founder of it, but Graham just brought me in quite early on. What I'd like to sort of suggest to you all is that you seem to be talking about having a potential referendum over, and I know it was just Matt thrown out there, dogs going on the beach at St Kilda. The way I see the system, and I've been involved, as I say, quite early on, so I see it as a two-tier system. You're still going to have some sort of councils. You're still going to have, they're going to need to be de jure, not corporations as they are at the moment, and they need to look after the local area and the local community, and maybe they have their own voting system within that local council, which is again based on the QMS quantum system, so that it's all fair and above board, and it's not construed, and it's not bought off, and it's not, as we've seen in elections elsewhere in the world, where there's just more votes than there are people, which doesn't add up. So we need that de jure system locally to look after those local people and those local issues, like St Kilda Beach, St Kilda Council. A de jure council would sort out that. The people in that area would be able to vote on that. And then you need a system for the whole of the country to look at the commonwealth, the wealth of the country, and the way that we trade with other countries in the world, which means we need some sort of council that are going to manage that, that are all going to have to be what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to need to be liable for their actions in every respect. So you're not going to have any of this covered behind corporations or covered behind a corporate government or anything like that. They're going to be completely liable for their actions, and their actions are to put forward the people's views from the referendums and the votes that we have put forward. So I don't think any of us know the numbers yet of how many people need to agree with someone's recommendation or someone's idea, but there's going to need to be a certain amount of people that agree to it. And I also feel on voting, my personal view, and I'm going to put this forward for you all to have a think about, if you're going to vote on something, surely you should know about it. You should have some comprehension of what the issue is. If the issue is about mining out a certain mine, if you know nothing about that mine and you're going to go a yes or a no without having done any background knowledge or understanding of that project, then I don't think you should be voting. I think personally, before you vote, you need to go through a questionnaire. Maybe there's 200 questions. You have to answer 20. You have to get 75% right to be able to vote on that specific item. And that, I think, needs to be something we look at. And it's obviously the people that are going to make this choice. You guys, everybody out there is going to make that choice. This is not mine. I'm just putting a proposal forward that you guys may all agree with in some respect. And then that goes forward for everybody to agree on, to say, yeah, that makes sense. It would be silly for someone to be voting on childcare or income or whatever, on pension age, if you've just moved into the country and you haven't got a clue from your background in the past. So, I feel there's got to be a lot that we all put together into this. This is just a very, very early stage. But what we're trying to achieve is something where the people have full control, and full control and comprehension of it, so they can move forward and make it better. I'll leave it at that, Graham. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, and look, obviously you need things like councils and that sort of thing to maintain the structure, but you don't want them in their current structure. You need to restructure them. And that's what we can use QMS to do, to restructure all the services that we currently have available to us, all the systems that are available to us. Now, I've got Karen with her hand up, and Wayne, I'll bring Karen in first, and I'll come back to you, Wayne, in a sec. Sorry, Karen, you had something to say there?
Hello, I just wanted to add, Andy's correct, and I just want to point out some of the things that have already been brought up in discussions, and that, you know, language is one of those things, bringing skills and talents and so on and so forth. But there's a vast disparity between the different types of migration here. There's a vast disparity, and there's all sorts of things that have come forward. Now, in my work with the civil service in the UK, one of my jobs was vetting and barring and counter-terrorism and all that sort of stuff. And maybe there could be some sort of checks and balances that are brought into, you know, before I could even work with the UK civil service in the type of work that I was doing, my entire family history back 3 or 4 generations had to be sorted out. They had to determine whether my family had been part of the IRA. They had to determine whether I had or any member of my family and my extended family through generations back had been part of any terrorist groups or affiliated to any organisations. They had to do a background check on me to see whether I was involved in any corrupt political organisations or terrorist groups or whatever. So they did all of these background checks on me going back 4 generations of my family. I had to get my parents' passports, I had to get birth certificates and all things going back a few generations of my family. Some of that we couldn't get, but they had to do all of those checks before they put me in position to make responsible decisions, so that they could be rest assured that I was, you know, the right sort of person to be in a position of responsibility that was regarding decision making that was part of the country. And I obviously had money to the access to the Queen's purse, so I had to be a responsible person to handle money being spent by the government. So they're the types of discussions about how we expand the eligibility and the types of things that we can put in, and that's what's come up in meetings. So I suspect many people will breeze through the eligibility process quite easily. But, you know, I remember when my family emigrated to Australia in 1980, we were not allowed to claim benefits for the first 5 years until we got our permanent residence. We were not allowed to have committed a crime or an offence in this country, or we would not have our permanent residency given to us. So there were lots of strict rules and regulations that we had to abide by when we came here, and you know, make sure that we worked and we could sustain ourselves in those first few years. That we had, I can't remember what they're called, but there's people that sponsor you. And yes, that's the word, Andy. Yeah, you have to have sponsors so that if you do fall foul and you lose your job and you can't sustain your mortgage or your house payments or whatever, that you had sponsors who would take you in and support you so that you wouldn't be able to claim benefits off of the system in that period of time. So, but there's a wide disparity. So with legal migration, we had to pay to go through that system. We had to jump through hoops, lots and lots of hoops, and it took over 2 years to go through that process. So, but that's not the same with all of the whole system. And what we're going to look at is the whole system. And we need people that are experienced from different facets of the migration story, so that we can start to get all of the facts and information together and start to build a picture, and then work from there as to how things will look in the future. Be in touch with me if you want to be part of the discussion. Over to you, Graham.
Thanks, Karen. And look, Karen's doing a lot of work. She's built a team to address exactly this issue. I was aware when I wrote the original document that this would be a hot pot issue, a hot button issue. I'm not a racist, trust me. I grew up, my best friend as I grew up was an Aboriginal, or we call them Aboriginal people now. He beautiful man, unfortunately he's passed away. I'm still in contact with his family. It's a very large family and I still speak to a lot of them. My second best friend was Italian. Back then, right, my Italian mate Ben, he called me Skippy, I called him Wild Boy. We weren't having a shot at each other. It wasn't about being racist. It was just about nicknames for each other. And it was about, you know, I don't think nationality is important at all. I think it is as an identity thing, but where you've come from and culture, I mean, it's all important in everybody's individual life. But when it comes to a system like this, the only important thing is that the country and the people of the country are protected. And if you're going to have a governance system where the people have their say, you need to be very careful. You don't open your front door and just let anybody into your house and give them the keys to their car and the fridge and the safe. you give them certain areas that they can move within. So, and when people come and live with you, you don't leave your bedroom unlocked and let them in and out of your safe in your bedroom or something. It's, you know, so if we're gonna have a system that's safe and secure, right, I'm not saying that people can't vote in it at all. I'm not saying that people from other countries can't vote. I'm just saying as we roll it out, we would start in that situation, and then we would develop systems and ways to bring it in. And Karen's trying to get in front of it with us so that we can have some of those proposals up and ready to go if we can get to that particular situation. It's not at all about disunity. This is actually all about unifying the country. So we don't want all that sort of rubbish going on. We don't want racism in that as part of our country. This is a beautiful country and we love the diversity of culture. We want to keep it all. It'd be lovely to see the original people's culture up and running as well. So the tribal people to be able to show their culture, to be able to learn their languages if we desire to actually know the truth about their history and let them tell it. Wayne had his hand up before, and I think he wanted to say something on the immigration issue as well. You'll need to unmute, Wayne.
It wasn't on immigration, had to do with what Andy said about councils. They're my bugbear. I've never liked them, but in this country at Federation, we didn't have councils per se. We had a local person who was
Administrator.
He ran the system so that he was a shire clerk. He employed a dog catcher if we needed one or whatever. The rest of the council was purely voluntary because they were municipal authorities. And under the Constitution, page 936, the 8th line down, we have the government or the state parliaments have the power to set up a system of municipal authorities. They are just a government department. We don't pay them tax. That's paid out of the public purse so that there's no people claiming authority over our land or taxing our land, because under our Constitution, our land can't be taxed because it's sold to us under Chalice real property free of fine or fee. So they can't do it. What they're doing in this country is unlawful. The people have said no that many times, it's not funny. They can't have that type of local government. So if we have a shire clerk, I know this pretty clearly because my father worked for him. He contracted to the shire clerks all over the place, which meant we travelled all around Western Australia. The remuneration was done from the public purse to carry out particular work on roads, footpaths and parks. Usually the parks were taken over by the local communities. They looked after their own park. But that's their choice. But we need to get this control off our land because people pay for it. They spend their whole life paying for it. And then some idiot comes along and says, you can't have that there because it doesn't fit in the building envelope. Well, get lost, moron. You don't get to tell us what we can do on our land because it's isolated from the Crown in fee simple. And that's how it has to be. We have laws for a reason. We have the purchase of land for a reason. You can't pay it off all your life and have somebody sending you a bill every year for a couple of grand or whatever. In my case, got up to 17,000 one year because I didn't like them and stood on them, and I got 22 acres of land. They're after money, most of them, but moreover, control. This whole system is on control. We need to take it out and put it under the quantum system. We can quite easily run all the local areas with one person or two people going around checking what needs to be done and then contracting people to do it. That's how the system worked. It was very, very effective. It was very cost effective, and any money had to be spent coming out of the public purse. The federal government put all the books into the libraries, the local people or the state parliaments put up the libraries. That's how it worked. It's simple. We don't need this over-governance we've had, which is what quantum management's about. Get rid of the over-governance. We need a simpler system. Go back to the one we had before. It worked. It worked before Federation. It worked after. I realised some states stepped up a couple of times, which resulted in huge cases in the High Court, which they lost after Federation, because you cannot tax land. And why should you tax something? The land doesn't earn anything unless you run a business. Then you pay tax on that business anyway. You can't keep this tax. So in relation to councils and local government, we need to go back to the simple system. Shire clerk looks after contractors. We can have volunteers to look after everything else. Midland Municipal Council had 14 members. Every single one of them were volunteers. I never collected a cent. Here in this state, up until about 8 or 9 years ago, no one got paid. Why would you pay? You're volunteering your services to get things interest in your general area, clean up the beaches and do all those sort of things. The Shire clerk coordinated that, paid out a consolidated revenue. It takes one burden off people, and that's what needs to happen. That's my opinion based on the Constitution and what used to happen. It was a fair system where you bought your land and you owned it. Instead of now, you buy your land, but the Crown still owns it, the Queen of Australia Crown, that is, and you own nothing. So you're going to be happy owning nothing and joyful watching somebody else have it in the future without you. No, I can't do that. So that needs to be factored into what we're doing and looked at so that we have a simple system where our needs in each community are looked after. Volunteers put forward all the ideas for that to the Shire clerk. He says yes or no, or puts it to a panel. We got panels. We're working on panels. Easy system to set up.
Yeah, so there's a lot of work to be done still. We're look, as Graham mentioned earlier, there's a few people here working on a lot of things. And, like, we're not trying to create policy for people. We're not trying to tell people how it's going to be. We're trying to build a system that we can bring forth. But,
yeah, I understand that. That's fine by me. I just put it in there as something to look at. That's all.
Oh, and that's true. I'm sorry, mate. I'm not having. I actually agree with the lot.
I'm fine.
Yeah. We do need weight. Any country needs to have structure. It's got to have the services that are required to run it. You need someone to build your roads. You need someone to make sure that people aren't hurting each other and things like that. You've got to have those in place. We're not talking about removing any of that. We're talking about creating a system where we can improve it on the will of the people. Right? If you take your will away from the government, it has no power. If you put your will into a system like this, the power in the policy and in everything is in the hands of the people, totally. Now I've got Graham with his hand up, but we've got Verity there as well. She was first in on, so I'm going to bring Verity in, and then I'll get to Graham and that in a minute. Verity, would you like to ask your question?
Hi. Look, I'm in Melbourne, in Victoria. I have been involved with Ratepayers Victoria, and I just wanted to say that I am happy to talk about the QMS system to Ratepayers Victoria. Graham and Wayne, we have had a lot of direct examples of all the things you've been saying with regard to legislation and trying to get responses from MPs. I personally have been involved in meetings with ministers. I have tried, we've written submissions to Remuneration Tribunal, we've written submissions to rating reviews and all kinds of things. And I certainly understand the detail and the everyday experience of everything you guys have been talking about. Just a couple of things. I understand that there's having been involved with RPV, I know that the detail is horrendous, absolutely horrendous, and it's like going down a rabbit warren. Every time you ask a question, you just end up in a maze of dead ends and runarounds. And that's why it's great to be able to go back to the Constitution and the legislation, because one of the things that we're astounded about is, and this is one of the things that I want to raise, is that legislation and policy is all very well, but what we have come time and time again across occasions where residents are having problems and because a council council staff are doing X, Y, Z. And we go back and we go to the original legislation, and the legislation says why. It says, or says letter A, for example. But in the implementation, the bureaucrats and the council staff are doing Z. And that is a regular problem. So as you do the QMS system, there's also the bit about the implementation and making sure that the implementation itself actually follows. I mean, Wayne, your thing about land tax is the perfect example. Rates are illegal and yet they're still being levied. Now, that's a perfect example of where the legislation is very clear, but the implementation has gone in completely the opposite direction to the implementation of the people. So, that's something, I don't know if the QMS system can actually tackle that, but it is certainly something to be considered. And from a completely different point of view, in terms of getting more interest and more people on the system, this may seem a little like heresy, but I would probably consider thinking about perhaps somebody or one or two people or an organisation to approach to be a public champion for you.
Yeah, we are approaching a few people, and we have got a number of people coming to us.
And there are, I mean, somebody that springs to mind, just that everybody might know, is the guys from Atlassian, because they're young, they're very modern, they broke the mold, and they're a tech company. That's just an example. That's not to say that you should go and approach them. Yeah, so that's just a couple of things from my daily week, and I had no idea who you guys were or what you were on about, but a friend of mine suggested that I have a look, and so I'm here.
Thanks.
Thanks.
And please send your contact information through to us at info@qms.org. And I think Graham and myself might like to have a bit of a further chat to you about some of what you've just mentioned, if that's okay. Graham, you've got your hand up. You're next, mate.
Wow, I love in queues. Is there a QR code here? No? Okay, that's another story, isn't it? Look, I just wanted to say that there's a bit of back and forth in the chat, and it's a couple of people, and I would really like those two people, and I'm not going to name who they are, but because they know who they are, I would really like you to get in touch with us and perhaps put forward what you believe is a good option for us to sort out what are the lawful, what shall we call them, immigrants or immigrants, and who are not, because we do have to have a specific policy. Otherwise, at the moment, we have a blanket policy, and that means that anyone that the government brings into this country can have a vote, and they give them citizenship, just handed out like lollipops. So that's why we had to have a specific thing. And I'm not going to, I can't apologise for the way that you feel that statement was written about immigration. But what I can tell you is this: if we don't get the QMS, up and running, it's not going to matter, because we're all going to be speaking Chinese. All right. So I know that sounds flippant, and I'm not meaning to be disrespectful to anyone, but we've got bigger fish to fry. The people who I grew up with, I'm 66. The people who I grew up with were all Europeans and to a certain degree some Asian people. Fantastic. But the government changed the immigration policy, and Wayne will tell you the same thing. And they started bringing in what we like to call economic refugees and economic migrants, which meant they brought them in so they could get their votes. They make no contribution to our society or our economy, but you cannot have a policy for up to one immigration policy and then another one for another one. You can't have it. You've got to have a blanket policy. So as Karen said, she's got the working group there, and I encourage everyone that feels aggrieved to that section of the proposal. It's not a prospectus; it's a proposal. So everything is open for discussion and for change at the will of the people. So please get involved. For the previous speaker, I didn't quite get her name, but that's okay. In terms of local councils and shires, state government and federal government, the QMS allows us to vote in real time and with an anonymous but encrypted, unique voting system. It's like another fingerprint. So if the people vote for, or the people ask for a referendum on whether we need the councils and the state government as well, then that might be decided that it won't be. But I can assure you of one thing: bureaucracy will be taken out of all levels of government straight away. That's one of our first referendums. So the charging of rates and the big salaries and things like that, we see that almost disappearing overnight. Pretty much like Tim was talking about income tax and things like that, excises on fuel and triple, quadruple dipping on electricity and gas and things like that. We see those things as being sorted out pretty quickly because the people in this country have been, basically financially screwed for many, many decades. And that's something that we have to fix because we know the money's there, we know the resources are there, we know the wealth is there, but we're just not getting a crack at it. So that's really all I wanted to say. There's a lot of people in the chat room that are chatting backwards and forwards. Put your hand up and ask the question and you'll get the answer because that's what this forum is for. It's a Q&A. And as I said, everything within the QMS proposal, not prospectus, and we'll make sure we change that, is up for discussion. And we want everyone to be able to have their voice and have their say. So, yeah. And councils are not a level of government. They are an extension of the state government. They have no powers whatsoever under the Constitution. So if anyone's wondering, that's actually the case. So that's all I got, Graham. Back to you. More questions.
Cheers, mate. Next one was Matt. Matt, would you like to unmute yourself there, mate?
Yeah, just quickly, again, pretty much on the same thing, because it has been a topic that's come up a couple of times, both in this meeting and the last one. As both Grahams have said, and I just was going to touch on it as well, you need a starting point. So there has to be a skeleton and in terms of reference there. And whether it's worded in the way that sits well with everyone, I must say, even when I read it at first, I thought, oh, that doesn't sit the best with me. But then I started to think about it. You need to have some term of reference. And we need to, as a country, understand that we don't want... whether you end up with it being that someone has to be a citizen for 5 years or whatever we do as the initial term of reference, something has to be there as a starting point. The beauty of QMS is once you get the focus team done and Karen the ideas and thought processes and you decide on what that term of reference is for immigrants, emigrants or whatever else, once you get that started off, you can then put it out to a referendum to work out exactly who you want to have coming in and voting. What happens in other countries is people... They stack votes. They get people to come in, they'll get a quick citizenship and they'll vote for a certain way. And then you have other countries putting power into what your voting system is. So we need to think and understand that this is an initial starting point. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect in every sense of the way, but these discussion groups mean that we get to have a say in what goes into that to start it off. Then QMS will allow the people to have the term of reference put in place that works best for everyone. So it's just a starting point. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is when it comes to Indigenous Australia and our original people, the elders, I have a discussion next Monday with a guy named Bruce Shillington, who has a big sway within our Indigenous population here. They are very much in line with what we're doing with QMS because obviously they don't trust the government at the moment. They're not happy with exactly what's going on here right now. And they think that a system outside of the system will be great. And then you set up again a panel or whatever you want to call it of our Indigenous elders and people that are actually from within the original people that have landed in Australia to say, this is what we want to happen as well. But then you again put it out to a referendum. So everyone's working together, and it actually makes so much sense that the power is back with the people.
Thanks, Matt. And that's what we're about. We're about unifying the country, not dividing it. We don't want to have different classes, different, different ranges of citizens. Well, I hate the word citizenship, but we don't want to. We want everybody, regardless of colour, creed, background, how long they've lived, to have how deep their ancestry goes. It's not my fault I was born in Australia, right? It's not, but we are talking to the Indigenous people. As Matt said, we've also had some Indigenous people join our website as members, and specifically elders, and they are actually also talking to other elders within there, because they see this as the system that we've developed is very similar to a tribal system in some ways. It's giving the people a voice, and it's using experts in their fields to actually demonstrate what that voice does. So if we try to bring forth a silly policy, and we all think it's great up front, and it can happen, then it gets to them, they test and measure it, they put it out in front of us, they show us the results of testing and measuring, how it compares up against the Constitution and the other policies that may be in place and how it affects those. And I mean, we're talking, these people have to be not connected to big fund, not connected to anything where they're going to make money through the decision-making process. It's got to be a safe process, and that's why we're trying to design it the way we are. It's not at all disclusive. In fact, we've got more of a voice through the QMS. All of us have more of a voice through the QMS than we've ever had before. And that's the main point I'd like to make in this, is that regardless of that, that's a hot topic, and I get it, right? I didn't do this to be racist. I didn't do this to make it a one. And the 1901 Constitution, it's been raised that if we return the Constitution, we'll bring back the laws of them, including white Australia. We're not going to do anything like that. The laws will change as the people change, and we can't do it in this day and age. We need a modern system that gives the modern people of Australia, what they need in governance, not what an elite few at the top thinks best for us. Right? We know what's best for us, and I truly believe that. And if we're educated on the policy as we go, and we're shown how it can go wrong and the advantages and disadvantages of having that policy, then it's up to us to make the choice ourselves individually. In a referendum-based system like this, the masses will win. Right? Now, there's so many things you can use the system to do at so many different levels. You could redesign education, you could redesign health, you could redesign everything if you really wanted to at every single level. It's just a matter of getting the voices involved and getting it out there and putting it to the people. And when people see that there's a better idea there, it's not hard to bring people to it. If you can, and it's not hard to raise 1,000 people to get it started within the system, which is why we've set that number low. That number may change and figures may change over time, but this is a work in progress, and it's a good starting point. You've got brilliant people working on it, and we'll have more brilliant people working on it, because all you can be part of it too, and every Australian can be part of it. And there's a lot of highly intelligent people in this country. We really are lucky here. It truly is a lucky country. The only problem we have is it's been stolen from us, it's been corrupted, and every system from the top down has been touched by the same people for financial and power reasons. I'm going to just get back to the Q&As just to keep it moving along, but I just wanted to make that clear. We're not trying to take anything away. In fact, even in the way the system is currently designed, it gives us more back than we've ever had. So, and that I stand firm on that. It's not about maintaining my position in this and proving I'm not racist or anything like that. I'm all about the people, right? And that's what we need to all be about. We need to be, first thing, live the best version of yourself and be the best version of yourself every day, and look to build the best version of our country that we could possibly have, because we really can. And as I said before, everything is fictional. It only exists within the will of the people. So when people give will to a government by voting, by paying tax, by paying their fines, by living to their laws and rules, then you're giving your assent. If you want to take it, put it in another system. When you're not happy with a shop, when they overcharge you, when they rip you off or give you poor service, you go to another shop and you buy your goods and services there. You don't stay with that shop. Now, in the past, people have thought, oh, we've got democracy, communism, socialism, or some form of tyranny. This is none of those things. It's it's based in democratic principles, yes. I've coined the term a quantumocracy. Graham and I have a bit of a laugh over it, but I actually like the term because it really does state what we are. Quantum refers to biological units, ultimately, and that's what we are. We are biological units. We're human beings. Yes, we've all got souls, we've all got brains, we've all got bodies, right? But we've got a will, and it's where we put our will that we have our strength. I'm going to go on to the next question, and that's Ricardo. So I think, Ricardo, yeah, if you'd like to unmute yourself there, please. Oh, Ricardo, you there? You there, Ricardo?
Is that me?
Yes, it is. Oh, good day, mate. You had a question?
My concern is my concern is the if the will of the people is expressed and everyone jumps on board and there is a unity amongst the people, then there's other interests from outside of Australia that may think differently. And it's already infiltrated from so many angles. So how would that be addressed?
Well, that's what we're addressing at the moment. We're saying that we've built a system and a structure that we believe protects us against those. I mean, we're not taking away the army. We're not taking away the systems of protection that we already have. We're strengthening them by putting the will of the people behind them, and the decision-making processes of the people behind them. I
just don't know what sort of firepower Australia would have, even if everyone that is part of the Defence Force, if they were completely with it, then there are the proxies that have basically engineered what's happened right now. What the actual rush that we're in. We're talking about money printing, Jekyll Island, the White Fleet, pointing guns at the land.
Mate, sorry, we can only address one thing at a time, and the thing that we're offering is a system, a tool to be able to change these things. The things will change as people propose policy in there and build them. We can't address everything in this country. We're not a political party. We're building a tool.
I get that.
To put it back in the hands of the people. So, and that's what we're doing. It's the army takes care of the country, the military takes care of the country as far as any defence issues are concerned. And I'm sure that they have their services which would keep the people informed as to any particular threats and need to react. But the army actually operates under our constitution, right? And they can actually refuse an order from the government. There's various things. If the government were to direct the army to fire upon us, for instance, and this is direct from our own army, they will not raise weapons against us. It's not constitutional for them to do so. It would be an unlawful act, and they'd be in breach of the Australian Constitution. So they're not going to do it. The other thing is, when you go out and talk to the police force and the government, they're not even aware of the Constitution. I mean, our children should be learning the Constitution in school. The Constitution is the very basis of all of our laws. And without a Constitution, a country is lawless. There's no basis to form any law in. So we proposed a return to the 1901 for a basic start. From there, who knows what will happen? People will propose a new Constitution. I know some people within the group that we work within have ideas around that and would like to propose that. But at this point in time, we can't propose policy because we're not politicians. We do not want to be politicians. We do not want to build a political platform as such. We want to build a policy platform that people use to develop and bring forth the policies that the country needs and that the people need, rather than a select few. I think Graham wanted to say something to that. So, sorry, I've got a couple of other people on the line, but I'll bring Graham in briefly first because I think he'll be speaking directly to that.
Just on that, you know, we are working with groups from all over the planet. All right, we also have allies, and those allies, military and and infrastructure are allies of the Commonwealth of Australia, not the government corporation. So once we get the people to exercise their will, all of that falls to the new system, because we're actually going to remove ourselves from underneath the Australian government corporation. It doesn't matter what infiltration or corporations are here in Australia. They're here by the grace of the Commonwealth of Australia, which is the people. Now, once the people stand up and realise that, then everything falls into place. We've already had discussions with people in the military and the police. That they will do what the Commonwealth directs them to do. And the Commonwealth is the Australian people. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take back the Commonwealth from underneath the corporation. So once that happens, everything else will fall into place. We know that. Does that answer your question?
I think it does. If we can move the will of the people onto our...
Well, I asked Ricardo. Is Ricardo gone, is he?
Yeah, he's dropped out, yeah. But if we can bring the will of the people to the QMS, the Army comes with it. So don't worry about that. They follow the will. Right. They have to follow the Constitution. Yeah, that's right, isn't it, Graham? The Army has to follow the will of the people.
That's what I just said. The military and the employees or the public servants follow the will of the Commonwealth of Australia. The direction comes from the Commonwealth of Australia. It's just that the government corporation has assumed the mantle of the Commonwealth of Australia. They're not sovereign. The people are sovereign. And so having a change with the QMS will give all of those public servants, military, police, everyone will fall underneath the direction of the will of the people, which is where it's supposed to be.
Exactly. And this is the tool to do it. Now, we've got 3 more. Yep. So I'm going to ask if anyone else has got any more questions beyond the last 3 that they email them to us. I'll include you, George, if you want to just put your hand up on the... Are you able to do it on your Zoom there, mate? So I can just squeeze you in. I'll get Geraldine in next and answer her question if that's okay. Hi, Geraldine. How are you?
Yeah, hi, everyone. Yeah, hi, Graham. Thanks very much for all your work. Sounds like a lot of you have been working behind the scenes for a long time. This is my first time I've heard about anything like this. And, I've got heaps of questions, obviously. But I've long thought the government should just look after the borders and get out of our lives. And I homeschool my kids, and I don't think they should be in education or health or anything. But I can't imagine, what you're saying, just to play devil's advocate here, it sounds fanciful. How do we move from one giant system over to another one? Does everyone come across with us, or just some people are under constitutional law and just move themselves across? Is it federal and state? Would we vote on every little thing? Like at the moment, there's way too much government and policy and everything in everything, like the school, like in school.
Yeah, no, Geraldine, I'm with you. We actually did answer a lot of this earlier on in the meeting, but it's okay.
I've been here the whole time.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, maybe I don't get it all, but yeah.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Look, just to sort of quickly answer a couple of the questions there that you asked. The way it works is through a voting app. So it's basically on the mobile phone or on your computer. It's based in a blockchain for security, and there's other security measures attached to it as well. And you don't have to vote on every single policy, only those. That's not compulsory voting. You vote if you want to or if not. So you can vote yes, no, or you can abstain from voting if that's your choice, right? But if, of course, if you don't want something to go through, you can put in your blocking vote. The idea is to create a system where the people have the power, right, to put forth a policy, to develop the policy, to see the policy in development. This is a transparent system where the people see it being developed, which is where one of the protections in it is. So the actual thought behind it is we're not going to be leading the country. We're not going to be running the country. In fact, I'd like to retire when this is up and running. I'd like to hand it off to a public service that would need to be formed in order to do the admin and IT type work that's coming up with it. But obviously, my job at the moment is to bring this forth, to guide it, to make sure that it stays true to form, which is to stay true to the will of the people, to make sure it's not tried to be monetized or turned into some financial system, or that it's going to become something that can be corrupted and used by other countries to run our country. I'm an Australian citizen. Not everyone here knows me, but the people that do will vouch for me. And I can tell you now, we've got some amazing people working on all of the structure and ways that we bring this forth. I wouldn't have Wayne Blue in here if he really didn't believe this was possible and if it was unlawful or if there's a problem, or Graham Jeffs or Tim. Those guys have come because they know what we're putting forth.
So are we not having Liberal and Labor? Are we not having the no votes? Is that going to go?
Why would you need political parties when you...
Graham, can I answer this?
I'm just trying to understand the system. It's the first time I've heard it, and 6,000 people is so few. An RDA, who is not a political party yet, has 63,000. And are you talking to them?
We've tried, and they don't answer. Political parties, unfortunately, are following a process that's pointless. And we try to talk to them. We try. Look, Graham, did you want to jump in? And I know you've got a bit.
Sorry, what was the question? What was your name? Sorry, I didn't get your name.
My name's Geraldine.
Hi, Geraldine.
Yeah, hi. Look, I really appreciate all the work you've all done, and it does sound amazing. It would be ideal if it works, but in a practical sense, how does it work going from what we have today in, I don't know, a few years, you have a federal election and you have all the state elections. How does it actually, in a practical sense, change from one system to the other? And
all right, are you familiar with our constitution?
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, section 128 of the constitution gives the people the right to change the constitution with a majority of the electors. So if that is actually the constitution, it's the last section in the constitution. So we intend to get the will of the people to change that. Now, if a political party, you mentioned Reignite Democracy Australia, they may not be registered yet, but they've applied. The two-party preferred system is unlawful and unconstitutional because it was created back in 1908 by the political parties themselves, by the parliament. So they are actually unlawful. Anyone entering the two-party preferred system is guilty of treason against the Australian people. So education is everything. You know, they took the constitutions out of the last constitution was removed, I think, in 1975 from every public office in this country. And so from then on, there was no more constitution taught. 1986, the then Hawke government introduced their own copy of the constitution, removing the preamble. The preamble is what gives the people sovereignty. So for anyone even looking at a constitution after 1986, they would think that the parliament had sovereignty. They don't. You know, the Australian Government Corporation and all their subsidiaries, including the AEC, are all unlawful and unconstitutional. So any political party that thinks that they can do the two-party system and win government, because it's been tried 40, 50 years and it's never been done. So what we're saying is we're accumulating, if you like, or co-joining people who want to be in the Commonwealth of Australia and not the Australian Government Corporation. Yes, Reignite Democracy has got, you know, tens of thousands. We have a reach of well over 1.6 million. So they're not all joined yet because everyone's still sitting back waiting to see what will transpire in, I suppose, the initial discussions, if you like, with us about what the QMS actually will do for the people of Australia. So we intend to build the QMS based around and with the essence of our lawful constitution, which means that we will abide by everything that is written in that constitution and make the QMS constitutionally lawful, so that when the people come to join the QMS, they will know that they are stepping out of the corporation and into the Commonwealth.
Yeah, so basically...
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I know
so we're talking to...
Yeah.
We're talking to all of the groups, the parties. I've actually got a challenge out at the moment with all of the so-called, and that includes Reignite Democracy, Craig Kelly, Clive Palmer, Pauline Vincent, and I've invited them to come debate with me what the two-party preferred system should be allowed to continue when we've got a system that is the people, for the people, by the people, that we can build in a 2-week or 3-week period, which will give everyone of an elector's, a lawful elector, a new fingerprint into the real-time progress and management of this country. So why would you go with the two-party preferred, which guarantees one of the two parties, when you can have a real vote in real time that will give you the person that you vote for? And now, that's assuming that the people want to keep political parties, because most people don't. It's political parties and politicians.
True, but people just can't imagine how it could be different. So I do agree that education is the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem fanciful, but it is absolutely right. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got some very, very, I suppose, respected individuals all over the world that are watching what we're doing at the moment, because they see Australia and New Zealand as a testing ground for the New World Order globalisation agendas. And we've proven that that's the case with all the lockdowns and everything like that. So we've got a lot of people watching what we're doing, and we believe that this will steamroll. Once we start to get momentum, we're already aligning with people like the Australia Project, which we're going to be working with as of next week. We've got a lot of influential people, but we're not doing a lot in the public. We're doing it in the private. So whilst you might think that 6,000 people on a website is not many, we have far more than that are working with us already to get the numbers that we need to move on a state-by-state basis. So, yeah, it does sound too good to be true, but you know what? We've been conditioned to believe if it sounds too good to be true, it is, and that's exactly the mindset they want us to have.
Can I just add in, Graham? It's just Matt here.
Yeah.
And part of that, your questioning is really great. The lady who's speaking earlier, sorry. The part of what we're doing with these Q&As is nutting out all the problems or the things that we need to be speaking about. So when you talk about RDA, I know those guys quite well. I have my own platforms that have heaps of followers. We've all got different people we know that have a lot of followers. There are numbers out there. We just want to make sure we do these Q&As and get the questions right, because you can hear even now, there's a lot of things that you guys are throwing out there that can go through to Karen, and we can start really working this out so we get it exactly right. And then when we really, go for a big push, it's going to get out to the people. Once it happens, I think, because of the way that it's structured, and I know you're saying it sounds a bit airy-fairy or fanciful, and I kind of look at it in that way too, but I'm a dreamer, and I believe that if enough people can see that this is a better system than what we're in, and I truly feel that people will see that, once it gets its legs going, it won't stop. And it's really just a matter of, making sure we're confident in it to word it in the right way to the right people. And obviously, Graham Turner and Graham and the other guys are doing a lot of work in the background. But initially, we just need these Q&As to make sure we're wording it in the right way, not confusing people too much, and get it out there to the masses as quickly as we can.
And as I said, it is a system that's under development. There's things that will change as the will of the people change, and as we become aware of certain things. We're not trying to be all things to everybody. Nothing would initially, if we got the 8 million, 9 million voters on board now that we say we need, and say the system became the system of preference tomorrow, initially nothing would change, except we'd stop spending a lot of money on paying for the government, because really you don't really need them anymore. And that money could be then funneled back to other projects. But I'm pretty sure that there'd be a lot of people proposing new policies from the very, very outset, because we're all very aware of what the problems in the current systems are. And we all have different areas that we're aware of, and some of us know about multiple areas. But nothing will change initially, because the public service essentially is what runs the country. So until we change the policies by using the system to do so, and this is the system that will give us the opportunity to do that. You can't do it in the two-party, but if we've got a direct democracy system like that, look, democracy is failing in the way that it is, and it's being stolen and taken away from us. So what we've done is we've used the basis of democracy, which is the idea of giving the masses the voice and the vote, and obviously the constitutional rights that we have and the human rights that we have, and we've built a system using those essentially. So if anything can be changed using it, it's just got to be based in the will of the people, and it's got to be tested and measured and shown to be better for the country along the way, so that people can make that decision for or against. So we've got Timothy's got his hand up. These really are the last three questions. We're really trying to sort of stay at time. I'm already running over, and we're trying to sort of, obviously we've all got lives and things to go on with as well. So please, last three questions. Anybody else has questions, you can email them to info@qms.org, and obviously jump on the website www.theqms.org. Have a look around. You can access all areas, or most areas. There's only a couple of areas we've sectioned off for members only. If you become a member, you'll have access to the law documents that are available on the Lawful Assistance, and there's links there for assistance if anybody's got legal problems in the current system. There's a number of things that we're getting. Jackie Dundee's put a lot of information in there, so you can use some of that stuff to help yourself and protect yourself. Graham's working on bringing more information in the background. I won't go into it because until it's there, we don't want to make announcements that may not, you know, we're trying to keep to fact. We're trying to stick to what we know, and we're not trying to overpromise because we don't want to underdeliver. What we have is a tool. We know it'll work. We know that we've got this technology to do it. It's there. The code's already written. It's just a matter of we're trying to work out the best ways to assemble the different sections that we need and have them in the blockchain so that it maintains the absolute and ultimate level of security that we can give. This has to be more secure than a banking system. So Timothy, would you like to unmute yourself, mate, and ask your question?
Yeah, no worries. Just a quick one. I've been talking about the QMS to some friends, and they're like, well, what do we do when we've got to deal with, you know, foreign countries in some capacity about trade or whatever? So say, for example, the QMS system come in, we would obviously nut that out then that certain people would be a representative for the people in various capacities that they've got expertise in, or not like as in like a politician representative, just one of the QMS members who will be responsible for a particular area.
We've already got diplomatic services and a diplomatic arm to the current system. We'd probably look at that. I mean, I think one of the first things we'd have to do if the QMS was brought in to be the system, when it's brought in to be the system of governance, would be to do a forensic audit of every account and every policy and every move that the government's made, and to go right back through it all so that we can unpick it all and rebuild the country the way it's got to be. You can't leave it lawless in the meantime, and you can't do away with foreign and domestic trade or anything like that. So there is going to be a transition period. We're aware of that. There's a period where the public has to get used to utilising it and being part of it. We've never had this opportunity before. So things will change a little bit, and they'll develop and grow as we go. But initially, the biggest change that we'll have is about a $2.1 billion saving a week in not having to pay for a corrupt system that's not doing us any real favours.
Yeah.
So thanks, mate, and I appreciate the question. I'll bring Margaret Vic in next, if that's okay.
Good day, everyone. This is the first time I'm here, and thank you to the person who invited me. Now, I heard Graham behind the trackie the other day, and Graham, you are spot on. We had a group here in Victoria called the Community Law Resource Group, and it is so easy. We need to learn the Constitution. Okay, we had our group, and I have my Constitution with me side, and when I do my research, you know, this is not like, for example, at the preamble of our Constitution, what does it read? Whereas the people of New South Wales, etc., united in one indissoluble union under the blessings of Almighty. We have got the power, and the will is in the people under Section 128 of the referendum and Section 116 of the, you know, the right to practice your religion. Now, Wayne Glue would back me up, and I bought the annotated version of the Constitution by Sir Quicken Garron when he was in Victoria a few years ago. I forgot the name of the page. It says, the absolute and uncontrollable authority remains with the people. Okay, now people got confused with like local government. Okay, they're local councils, they're municipal districts. And in order to really, there's like, for example, in Victoria, there's like 76 of them. We get rid of the chief executive officers. What Wayne said before, yeah, we simplify the local councils and the state government. We are a two-level government, federal and state, and people want to reinvent the wheel. And I will ask people now, who has read the convention debates of 1898 when the framers of the Constitution were trying to put this Constitution together? And what I say to you, wonderful people, and I'm so rapt, because political parties are repugnant to the Constitution. And you can Google, let's say Liberal, they've got Australian business number, and they've got their own Constitution, and they're subject to their Constitution, but not this Constitution.
No, exactly. So, yeah, look, we can give the power back to the people of the system. That's what the whole thing's about. Vince, did you have a question there, mate?
Sorry?
Oh, no, I was agreeing with you. I think, yeah.
I think, I'll put from a question, Graham. Then I think every time you have a presentment, you actually teach people, for example, clause 5 of the Constitution and the meaning of it, that every judge, every person is subject to the Constitution. And it's lack of knowledge.
Yeah,
essentially.
That is, at the moment, what we're trying to do is get the Q&As so that we can get to develop the audience and get the word out there. We do agree that part of it is educating people, and thank you, we'll take that on board. We'll have a bit of a discussion about that among the steering team members and see how we can hit that. I've got to keep moving on, sorry, because we're running over. But Vince, you had a question there, mate?
Not so much a question, but just some information for everybody who's wondering. George in particular, if you look down on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a thing that says reactions. You go down there and that's where you put your hand up, George. Okay, so I'd like to pass my time over to George.
Oh, okay. Yeah, George did want to come in before. Sorry, mate. I've been taking care of the hands up the top and I missed you there. So if you want to unmute yourself and come in, please do. I know I've made you wait a little while.
No, that's all right. I did find that after all. Thanks, Vince. I just wanted to make everybody clear too, I'm not George Christensen, the politician. I was just thinking about you were talking about voting before, and I'm just wondering, have you thought about whether the voting will be open to the public? For example, will it be electronic so that people can see in real time how the vote is going?
I would think that should be the case. I actually think that everything needs to be transparent within the QMS, that every step of the way we need to know what's happening. As things are developed and as things are running on it, we need to know. So I think that there is that transparency. The only thing that will be really hidden away is your information, because it's got to be kept in a blockchain and nobody really needs to know that except for you. I mean, obviously some demographics will be collected along the way, and you know, the system will know where people are and what they've done, and will issue out, you know, letters or information if it's required to people. But, you know, at the end of the day, human beings don't really need to be touching that information and manipulating it and using it to try to sell you things or promote things to you. It's, you know, that's not what that's not what any political or policy system is for. And I mean, if you look at the moment, you've got Dan Andrews, he's a drug dealer. He's selling drugs to the state of Victoria. Most of our premiers are drug dealers at the moment. So, you know, what can I say about that? The next one was Belle Thompson. If you'd like to unmute yourself, please, Belle. And Belle will be the last question for the night.
Hi, sorry about that. This is just 2 quick questions. Firstly, will you guys be doing anything for New Zealand? I've got a brother over there and I know him, and a number of people that he would be involved with would be desperate for something like this. I know that this is only in the early days, but, you know.
Actually, I've had talks this week. A gentleman from our last meeting in New Zealand contacted me and asked me if we could release the system to him. I'm just making some amendments to the website we've already got ready for them. And then once that's ready to go, it's just that we've been working on the Australian one, and that's developed a long way, and they look at quite different at the moment. So I'm just changing it back so that it looks the same as what we've got. And then I'll give that to them, and they will start to promote it. I've asked him to contact all the movement organisers over there, and he needs to have constitutional and law experts. He needs to have marketers and various other people working with him to bring this forth. So yes, we are doing it there, and we're also talking to people in the UK and trying to get it into there. I believe Graham's been talking to some in the US. We've actually got interest in Canada and most of the Western democracies because we're all in the same situation. As I said, Western democracy, the Westminster system appears to be collapsing as far as we can tell. It's done it through its own lies, and it's created its own problems, and eventually lies are exposed, and that's what's been happening lately. And as a result, we people are now left in a very, very poor position. We're actually living pretty much in a communist country these days, and we want to change that. We want our free country back. We want our voice back. We want our people to all be united and to stand together as one, and not against anything other than a corrupt system. And this is how we can make our stand and how we can actually make this happen. And all of us who are working on it believe it. And when we say there's a small group, there's about 50, 60 people who are involved with bringing this forth at the moment, who are out there really actively promoting it very strongly. And then we've got all of our membership also doing things to promote it as well. So membership's the first step, engagement with the system is the second. The more engagement and membership we can develop, the stronger the system becomes. And at 6,500, we may not look that big yet. We hit 10,000, we're a bit scary. We hit 100,000, we're very scary. We hit 1 million, and I'll probably turn into Julian Assange and have to go hide in someone's backyard or something. We'll see what happens when we get there. But at the end of the day, we're building this regardless, and the more people that come on board, the safer the system becomes, the more people that come on board. It's only us people at the top that are likely to sort of suffer any concern from it. So, Graham, you wanted to say something to that as well, I think?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to say to everyone that we will make ourselves available to speak to groups and explain the QMS in more detail from both angles, from the actual from the QMS side and from the constitutional side. So if anyone's got any groups out there, they can find groups that want to have information. We can do a Zoom with them. There's no problems about that. We're doing it. Graham and I are doing them all the time anyway. So it's another one's not going to matter. It just has to be within reason. That's all. We do have a lot of people in New Zealand that have been following my groups for many years. So we do have a lot of people in New Zealand. We also have people in Canada, Germany, France, Spain, the UK, and a few other smaller countries through Europe. They're all watching us, and in the US. So they're all watching us because they know that this is the testing ground. Australia, New Zealand is the testing ground for the New World Order globalisation agendas. You don't have to tell us that, we already know. But so we are looking at any groups anywhere on the planet that we can talk about the QMS. It won't be obviously Australia related, but it'd still be the QMS, which is power back to the people. So I just wanted to drop that in.
I appreciate it. Can you imagine the whole world run in a direct democracy like this? I mean, it would just, a people-led world rather than the government, we'd never see another war. There's no reason that most people don't want to go to war. It's the governments that bring us there. We'd never be stealing off each other, because why would we when our countries produce the wealth they can produce, and the people are part of that wealth, and they're part of the country, and they're part of the say and what it does. We want to give it all back. We're not taking anything from anyone, except we'll probably take some jobs off those people that don't deserve them hopefully very soon. I'd like to see, the sooner it happens, the sooner we change everything. And it only happens when we get the will of the people and the numbers to exercise that will. So we're working on that. We've got some really good plans coming forth, some that we're still in the progress of talking about. We've come up with about 7 or 8 different ways now that we can bring the QMS forth using various different methods, including the will. And there's also the split aside society that when we reach certain numbers, if necessary, and it looks like it is going to take a bit longer, we can actually constitutionally create our own society within the country and keep living where we are. We don't have to go buy land up in or go live in a commune. We can actually do things around that as well. And there's a number of ways that we're trying to at the moment investigate and ensure we won't put anything there unless we're sure it works, basically. So Graham's very, very strong on vetting any legal information or anything like that that comes in. We can't help what members suggest to each other and people advise, experts say things to each other in groups and things like that. But when we put our name to it, we're not going to put our name to it unless we've really tested it and know that it's going to be right. So, and look, at the end of the day, as I say, we'd all like to retire. We just want to get this system working so our children are protected, our children have a say, and that we don't have to do this anymore. Because to be quite honest, you know how much time, money and effort we put into it and how draining it can become. And it's pretty thankless sometimes. You get a pretty hard time. I mean, Graham's been doing it for years, and sometimes I wonder how he stood up for so long. It really is testament with guys like Tim, Graham and Wayne and some of the other people that have come in. Matt, the knocks that we all take, I guess I can include myself in it because I've had a few lately too. The knocks we take and keep going have been pretty heavy. So we're really doing our best. We're bringing forth the best we can. And as I say, I've never had, I'm so proud that to be able to be part of such a beautiful team, an amazing team of such intellectuals and people like Andy who support us, people like Penny, they do heaps in the back. Karen is, without Karen, we couldn't have got it like as structured as we've got it. I mean, I'm not very good at structuring things. I'm a writer, I'm a garage door installer and a telecommunications tech and a mediator. But, hey, I've never been a politician. I've never followed politics. So I guess I've had a bit of a unique take on things. I believe that I've been given this by our creator so that I can bring it forth to the people. And that's what I'm doing. And with the alignment that we've had and the way things come together, all I can say is that it's amazing that when I ask for something or when I feel I have a need for it and I put it out there, it takes me like 24 hours before it materializes because it's not for me. It's for us. It's for all of us. And I think if you want to learn about manifesting and that side of things and getting the press come true, when you put it out there, if it's something selfish, you may not get it. But if you put it out there and it's altruistic and you're genuine in your desire to bring it forth, and I'll tell you, the main person I do this for is my 15-year-old son. Okay, he's the whole reason I've gotten so deeply involved in Fought the Fight I'm Fighting, because if I can't protect him, who's going to? My government's not going to. They're prepared to take him away from me and stick needles in him and do horrible things to him. I'm not going to let that happen. And if I can avoid that, I will. And this system, we get our power back. Come with me. Let's go on a journey. Let's create something new. We really have something strong here. And honestly, you would not see the people in here that you're seeing tonight. And there's many more aligned that aren't here tonight, I might add too. They can't all be here. Others run meetings and everyone's doing their own thing. Please keep in mind that Jackie's running their court cases. Pete Little's got stuff he's doing. They want to be here, but they can't always. So they will when they can. But we've got to let them run their courses in what they're doing too, because this is a multi-pronged approach. And for us to succeed, we do it in unity. And trust me, I've never trusted a man that says trust me, but in this particular case, I have nothing. I'm not asking for a thing from you other than your membership, engagement, and to look properly into what we're doing and to ask the right questions of the people involved. You don't even have to ask me. And when you see what we're actually building and when you really get your head around it, we're actually really excited to be part of this. And I've never seen Graham, Wayne, Tim, and I've followed these guys for years. I've never seen these guys so excited over something, to be quite honest. And I'm so proud to have them with me. I really am. Thank you, guys. So, I mean, look, and I'm no one special. Any one of us could do something like this. If you've got an idea, the QMS gives you the opportunity to bring it to life. Okay, so this is, if it's a great idea, do it. If it's for the best interest of the people, ask the creator to support you and do it. And I'm pretty sure you'll find it gets easier as you go. There's times where it's hard, there's times where it's thankless. But I'll tell you what, nothing you do in life that's worthwhile comes without pain, and you don't learn anything when you're sitting happy and comfortable. You learn it when you're in pain and when you're having usually bad experiences. That's where you have the deepest and most intensive learning experiences. So we want to stop the pain that the government causes and just leave it to life. Life gives us enough as it is. We don't need it from the people that are meant to protect us and secure us. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wind the meeting up. I really appreciate you all coming. Much love to you all. Thank you for being part of the QMS. If you're not already a member, jump on the site, become a member. Please invite your friends. See you later, Tim. I saw you waving there. I want to thank all of the people who've been working with me, who've come to the meeting tonight and taken part in it, for everything that you've contributed. Thank you to the people asking the questions. I'm sorry if we didn't answer it the way you want. As I've said, we're not politicians. We're not going to sit here and lie to you. We're not going to give you false dreams, hopes and promises. We can give you hope in this system and we can give you hope to change it, but you have to change it. You have to do it too. No hero's going to come and save us. We have to save ourselves, and this is how we really believe we can do it. And that's why we're working the way that we're working, and we know it can work. We know it's lawful, safe, peaceful, and there's not much you can do because it's just political expression. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you coming tonight. Any further questions, email them to info@theqms.org, and we'll run this meeting again next week. If you guys want to come back, please do. Bring your friends, tell your friends about it. If you've got any questions, you can email them to us during the week, and there's the forums on the groups you can get into, become involved. We really want the discussions in there because that gives us the ideas then to work on in the background to help develop the system that we're building. And I mean, look, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's pretty complex, but it's not undoable. And I tell you what, when you've got people that I've got working with me, we're going to do it. I know that. Good night, everyone, and thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.